Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, if you found us, you are probably searching because you're an author. Maybe you know somebody who is, and you're looking for some insight and some information. Today, we're going to talk about something that is so impactful, and a lot of us will cut corners. And when you do that, usually it's a recipe for failure. And today we're going to talk about, as an author, how not to cheapen your brand. And this guy helps authors, nonfiction authors, all the time improve their brand by way of recording an audiobook in your voice. You can do it. It can be done. And he's back with us. Robert Lane from Robert Lane Coaching is on the program. Hey, Robert, how are you?
Hey, Steve, how's it going?
Good. So, yeah, cheapening your brand. There's a lot of things that in life we cut corners, but if we look specifically for an author, what are some of the things that people are doing that are really cheapening their brand?
Yes, it's so important to be able to, when you put yourself out there in the world, with any product, and especially as an author, because, some authors don't even relate them as being an author as a brand, but that is a brand because you're presenting yourself as that's your brand. So the first thing to do to not cheapen your brand starts from within. You have to be 100% committed into you being a nonfiction author. Now, you wrote and published a book, so I'm assuming that you were 100% committed when you went through that process of creating this great book that you have published. So to continue that brand that you've established, when you do your audiobook, you can't cut corners. You can't, say, I'll just, set up, my iPhone and talk at it and it'll be good enough. It doesn't work that way. There's so much more that's involved in creating an audiobook, but really having the proper mindset and tapping into the core reason of your purpose. What is your why? Why did you write the book that you have written and published in the first place? Why is it so important for the world to read your book? Why is it so important to preserve the story that you're telling or the coaching program that you're teaching or whatever your nonfiction book is about, so that when you're gone off of this planet and your book is still living many, many years afterwards, why is it so important for the world to read your book? Tapping into that why and having that purpose is what you're bringing to the table to your brand. And that's especially what you bring to the table when you narrate your own audiobook. So it's really important to start from within and have that mindset.
The mindset of it being your brand is super important because we don't look at it that way. Man, just the writer, I'm writing a book. Hey, no, you are creating an entity. You are, even all of us. Robert, you're a brand. I'm a brand. Everybody's a brand. We represent ourselves as this brand. And you're not doing yourself justice if you cut those corners. Let's look at it this way. You've got a function to go to, maybe a work party, maybe a wedding. You're going to go buy clothes. You want to look good, you want to feel good, right? That's your brand. You're representing yourself. So you're going to probably pick a suit or a dress that looks good. Maybe you'll pay a little bit more because you want to feel good and look good because you're representing your brand. Same thing when you write a book and all the stuff that we're talking about, right down to the cover art. You might have a great picture that might work. It's possible. Phones take, super high resolution, many, many megapixels. More times than not, no. And are you really designing the cover? You may be providing a photograph, but the actual design should be done by a professional. Same thing with recording an audiobook. How about some other ideas, other tips on how we can not cheapen our brand?
Right. That's such a good point that you brought up, Steve, because get help. Asking for professional help is the way to go. When you're planning your retirement, you hire a financial advisor. When you want to advance your career, you hire a career coach. If you're having relationship issues, you go to a relationship coach or a therapist. You hire a professional to help you achieve the goals that you're trying to achieve and get the results that you're trying to achieve. So it's no different as an author, to get the help that you need to create the most professional, high quality product that you can put out there. When you wrote your book, you hired an editor, you hired a proofreader, you hired a cover designer, formatter. You did whatever you needed to do to publish your book so that it's just as comparable as, especially if you're as a self-publishing author, it's just as comparable to someone who's with Simon and Schuster, right? Who's with an established, a publishing company versus self-publishing. There shouldn't be any difference in having this book with this book. You can put them side by side and you wouldn't know whether it was, from a publishing company or if it was self-published. That's the level of professionalism you need to be. Same thing with an audiobook. You can't cheapen it by trying to do it yourself. So you get professional help. And that's what I do as an audiobook coach, because who is there to help you through the process step by step? One of the biggest benefits with working in my program is that I do provide the professional equipment for you, and I teach you how to set up your own recording space. So that takes the confusion, the hassle, the overwhelm of, where do I record? Do I have to go to a studio? How much is that going to cost me? So there's that aspect of it. Also, when you set up your own recording space, you are doing it on your time, on your schedule. And that frees you from having the pressure of having to go somewhere else, working on their schedule and rushing through trying to do an audiobook narration that maybe could have been so much better had you done it on your own in your own recording space. So that's another aspect that's really important.
And even the audiobook for the nonfiction author, doing an audiobook elevates your brand, makes your brand seem even more solid, because now you have another arm to your book. And when it comes to doing the actual recording, and we've talked about this a ton of times before, but I think it bears repeating, people will say, I don't have a voice for it. I can't do it. I'm not going to sound good. Yes, you will, because people want to hear other regular sounding people. And if you decide, or you're thinking about maybe hiring somebody to narrate it, all right, there's expense involved in that. And I had this conversation, Robert, with somebody the other day who wrote a book. And I was talking, hey, talk to Robert and get it done. And they said, well, there is a service where you can get a professional narrator. Again, what's professional? I don't know in this arena. And it's half the royalties of the book you give the narrator. I don't know if you've heard about that, but right away, sure. I mean, if you're writing a book, it's to get visibility, hopefully sell really well. Well, that's probably on your mind if you're writing a book. And now you're going to hire somebody that you're giving them half the royalties of the book before it is even recorded. It seems crazy to me. I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
Right. And that is one of the, that's true. That is one aspect where people who hire other, whether it's a producer who does the production of it and a narrator, they'll take a piece of the pie. In my audiobook coaching program, that's not the case. I don't want a dime of your royalties. That's yours to keep.
Sure.
You hire me as your coach. I'm there to make sure that when you get published on Audible, Amazon, and Apple Books, that your audiobook is at the utmost quality, that it meets the specifications that they require, and their specs are very specific. So you have to make sure that the quality is there, or you know what? Your audiobook's going to be rejected. Matter of fact, I'll share a story with you. I just talked to an author the other day. He's written several books, actually. And he's in writing a memoir right now, and he is going to enroll into my audiobook coaching program, so that's good. But he did publish, or he recorded, I should say, an audiobook. He tried to do it himself and cut corners. Went down to a friend's house down the street. Oh, I got a studio. Let's record it in there. And he did the recording, and he is yet to get approved to get on Audible, Amazon, or Apple Books, because his audiobook is rejected because it is not meeting the specifications. So now he hired this is before I talked to him. I wish he talked to me before this, but he hired another company that went ahead and published it on their platform, and it's not one that many people would even think of. But they're like, well, we'll definitely fix your files and get it up there on Audible. And so far, it hasn't happened. So he's still trying to sort that all out. So you end up spending more time and money and effort to try to fix something that you could have done properly and done it right the first time. And that's what I do as a coach, and why I did this program, so it alleviates any of that, so that you don't have that stress of like, oh, great, now I recorded this audiobook and it's being rejected because there's buzzing sound in the background, or there's something else, or the levels are not right, or whatever the rejections are. And it's like, okay, now I'm like back to square one. Do I have to go back and actually re-record my entire book again? You might have to do that. And that's a real drag.
Wow. Well, I guess it goes back to the old get it right the first time, measure twice, cut once. Why would you want to do that? You're cutting corners. And I can hear it in my mind, the friend saying, I got a studio, I got a band, we practice, we play. It's totally different. It's totally, some of the audio principles, you being an audio expert, they're similar in a way, but the specifications for an audiobook are way different than anything else. And right down to, like you talk about the hum or the buzz in the background. It's unfortunate that person you speak of, who knows how long it's going to take. And he's already made an investment with somebody that, I believe garbage in equals garbage out. So, to try and make something sound better, there's only so far you can go. Why not start with good equipment, which is what you provide when you work with somebody? Yes, that's all part of it.
Yeah. That's all part of it. And the sad part about it is that, he told me, he goes, we didn't even know that there was this buzzing issue. Maybe it was somewhere in the studio. We didn't even notice it, or his friend or engineer or whoever recorded it didn't even notice it. And it's something, it was something in that studio that was causing the issue. And I listened. He had a clip that was posted on Google, and I listened to it. And so first I heard like just ambient sound. I was like, that noise floor is a little bit high. We need to fix it. And then it went to the next track, and then there it was. There was the buzzing. I was like, oh my, whoa.
Yeah.
And it was like immediately distracting. And that, of course, Audible is going to reject that.
Sure.
100%.
Well, it goes right back to what we talked about, cheapening your brand. So you imagine somebody buys, let's say it slipped through.
Yeah.
Let's say it slipped through, just got through. Or the audio's, somebody paid money for your audiobook, and now they got to listen to the substandard audio. How does that reflect your brand? Now you're coming out with the second book. Somebody's going to look at it and say, it's kind of hard to hear it. His voice got a little lower sometimes, a little louder. And then, it's just not my thing. I don't know. But it's your brand that's representing you.
Right. Again, like I said at the beginning, you have to start from within. You got to be 100% committed to do this all the way, 100% all the way, no matter what you're doing with your book as an author, getting it published, doing your audiobook, all your marketing, everything that you do to let the world know about this great story that you've written. You can't cheapen the brand, because again, when somebody reads your book and they love your book, and it's like, you are the expert in your field. You're an expert in that space that you've written in. And then you're going to put out an audiobook that's subpar. Now you've just lessened the trust factor.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, well, his audiobook really didn't sound all that great. He didn't sound like he put much effort into that. Is that the kind of effort that they're going to put in their coaching program when I sign up with them? Are they going to be subpar? It creates these questions in potential clients, minds. So it's so important to not cut corners, it's true, you get what you pay for. If you want top quality, you may have to pay a little bit extra, but in the long run, you're saving yourself a ton of money, a ton of hassle. And my goal for the audiobook coaching program that I teach is to remove that hassle, which is why I give you the equipment, teach you how to do it, teach you how to do a narration properly, the tools and techniques to do that, edit your audio files for you, so you don't have to worry whether there's buzzing or they're not meeting the specifications. And then I do the uploading into Audible, Amazon, and Apple Books for you for publication. So I know whether there's an issue with the files or not. If there's a rejection, I know about it. It's fixed immediately. It's re-uploaded and it's ready for publication. So when you go through my course, there is no, oh, gee, I hope it gets published. No, it will get published because we don't cut corners.
It's done right the first time.
The first time.
Yeah. And yeah, I give, this person that we're speaking of as an example. We're not trying to beat on them. It's just an example of how you might not want to do it. I give them credit for recording their own book. So, maybe
absolutely
a check mark there, because like we said, some people are have an aversion. They're afraid they're not going to sound good and all of that, which, we take that away. You're going to sound fantastic. And that's how you do it. That's the best part. You are confident in getting somebody who's not a professional narrator to read their book.
Yes.
You'll make them sound good.
Right. And you know what? Not that author's fault, really, and really not any author's fault about trying to do it on their own or figure it out and this and that and the other, because number one, they didn't know about me.
Right.
They didn't know that there is help and that there is a way to have an actual audiobook coach taking you step by step through the entire process so that you sound incredibly compelling and incredibly engaging. So, really no fault to any author for trying to do it on their own, and definitely props to have the initiative to turn your book into an audiobook and to have the initiative to actually narrate it on your own and to do it yourself, which, I'm the number one advocate for doing that, because again, as a nonfiction book, it is your story. You wrote it, you lived it, you experienced it. You told the story in written form. You need to tell the story, in audible form. So you're on the right path of doing that. You just need to get on the right path of working with somebody and doing it in a way so that there's no doubt that you're going to get your book published and it's going to be right. And that's why I do the program. And I don't take any royalties. I don't say, yeah, we'll get it done, in the next 6 months. No, the program is 6 weeks. You get it done, you record it. And my job as your coach is an accountability partner to keep you on track, your safety net. If you start to, worry about, confidence or how your voice is sounding. And if there is any issues with your audio file, you send me a sample first before I even give you the green light to, start recording your book, professionally for real. You got to send me a sample so I can hear it. Because you know what? If there is a buzzing sound or there is something that's in there that should not be in there, we catch it right away so that you don't have to go, oh, geez, I had this buzzing sound through my entire book. Now I have to re-record my book because I wasn't able to get it removed. So that's why you need to get professional guidance.
It's your brand.
There you go.
And we're going to talk in a second about everything that's included in case you missed previous podcasts. But I'm looking at it this way. You need brakes on your car. You're not a professional. I wouldn't do the brakes on my car. Just wouldn't. Not nowadays, the way cars are. I'll get my friend to help me out with it. He may be able to do it. I have some confidence in my friend. And if he nails it, great. If there's an issue, I take it to the shop. However, aside from the safety aspect, that's not my brand. That's not how people are going to judge me by the way my brakes work, whether they squeak or not. We're talking about what's representing you, and that's you representing you, or you having a friend, like in the example that we gave, try to record your book and try to get it put out to every platform that it should go out to. Again, it's directly representing you as an author. And I got to believe if you wrote a book, you're pretty serious about it. You probably thought about it for a long time, years, maybe. Why cut corners when it's so easy to somebody reach out to you It starts with a conversation. There's no just, plunk in a credit card and press the button, submit. And no, it's a one-on-one. You are the teacher. You are the coach. The conversation starts there, right? And then
Yeah.
if it's a good fit, equipment arrives at your doorstep. Simple equipment to set up.
Yeah,
Tell us about the whole
absolutely.
process.
Right. So the first thing you do is go to robertlanecoaching.com, go to my website, and it just gives you a description. It has some samples of authors I've worked with on the website, so you can hear what it sounds like. It gives you the step-by-step of how the program works, and simple step, click the button to book a call. That's all you need to do. You book a call with me, we talk. I don't charge for consultations. There's some coaches who do. I think they're insane for doing that. I don't believe in that. You and I will talk. You talk with me personally. We have a meeting, we talk, you tell me about your book, what your goals are, what your marketing strategies are, what is it that you want to do. I'll give you more details about the audiobook coaching program, the steps that you take through the process and how I work with you. And again, if it is a fit, then you enroll. It's that simple. I'm not going to hard sell you. I'm not going to make empty promises to you. Not at all. Because again, just like your brand, right? You don't want to cheapen your brand. My brand is Robert Lane Coaching, and I'm not going to cheapen my brand, and I'm going to give you the goods, and I'm going to deliver on them and give you the results that you seek when you record your audiobook. So book a call, let's talk. I'll get you enrolled. You go through the program, and at the end of the 6-week program, you'll have your audiobook recorded and it'll be uploaded, and then there's one final process that happens before it goes live, but it will go live. It usually takes about 10 days. Sometimes it's a little bit longer, sometimes a little bit shorter, depending on how busy they are in regards to getting your book published, but it will be published and you'll be on Audible, Amazon, Apple Books, the AAA that you absolutely have to be on as a distribution platform. You got to be on those platforms. There's others, but those are the ones you need to be on, and those are the ones I get you on.
And for anybody, and I just want to address that, there are people that think they can't do it. If somebody's saying, well, I have an accent, I sound like a New Yorker, or I have a Southern drawl, whatever it might be. I have one word, and I think you'd agree. The word is fantastic. That's you. That's great.
That's you.
That's unique.
Right. That's right. It is unique, and that's what makes you you, and that's why you need to narrate your own book, because only you can tell your story in your style and the way it was meant to be heard. Another narrator, I don't care how professional they are not going to have the same style and pacing and that those intangibles, those emotions that you had when you wrote your book. They're not going to have that because they didn't experience it. You did. And if you have an accent or Southern drawl or whatever, hey man, that brings personality to your audiobook. And
Sure.
This is why we talk, this is why we have an assessment call before we even start, just so we can talk about these things, because I want you to be 100% confident. And we talk about how to build confidence in the program anyway. So you can do it. Absolutely. 100%.
I'll bet, final thought here, I'll bet that you have yet to meet somebody that can't do it based on their voice, right? Is there anybody that you've had to turn around and say, whoa, because your reputation is on the line, your brand, Robert, is on the line if it doesn't sound good. So you have to, you have to watch yourself as well in terms of your brand. Have you ever turned anybody away because they just didn't sound good enough to record an audiobook?
No, I never have. Never have. And there, every nonfiction author that I've worked with, no matter what their voice is, no matter male, female, doesn't matter, wherever you're from, they were fine. They sounded great. And I'll tell you, after that audiobook is published, I just had an author get her book go live on Audible and Amazon and Apple Books. And she is so excited and elated about that and so proud, as she should be. And you will be proud too when you do that.
And it's so exciting. Imagine
it is.
Once it's done, sending a link to friends and family for them to share with others. And let's say, you have a little bit of social media going on in terms of you as an author. Whoa. To me, once you have an audiobook, you hit the big time. You did. It just sounds like it makes you credible. And for your brand, again, we go right back to that. That is your brand. Why would you want to cheapen your brand? You don't.
Oh, yeah. Audiobook will enhance your brand like 1,000 notches up.
Yeah. And that's what you're doing it for. You're an author. You want some exposure. You want people to hear what you have to say within your book. Website, once again, Robert, best place to find you?
Go to robertlanecoaching.com. robertlanecoaching.com. The information's there. There's plenty of buttons there to click to book a call. Book your call. I want to talk with you.
And listen very carefully, people. There's no buzz in the background when he speaks. It's nice and clean. And that's what it'll sound like when you do your audiobook.
That's
Robert,
right.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.